Okay. I have moved ahead on the last piece that I've been building stuff for. Here is the background, that paper that I created. Because I didn't have much of the paper, I've really, like, see how close I'm coming. I think I'm going to take the brown paper almost to the edges here. I got tons of brown paper though, so that's not a big deal. I also got this piece pretty wrapped up. The proportions are so off, but I figured out a way to hide that. I still need to finish the legs here, and then I can start adding the surfaces to those. But I wanted to show you, these are the pieces that I'm working on. And this is going to be like akin to the shelf dolls that I've made in the past. And you can see I've gone through and added a strip of paper, decorated paper here, and then gone through and cut all of the little pieces that will be glued down first. Now, those two pieces are prepped. These pieces, these are the three that are going underneath the shelf as supports. You can see I've glued down this side, and I've added a little bit of extra glue here. And the reason I do that is to make sure that the tabs stay down. Remember, this is very this is newsprint, so it can get wet very quickly, and gets sopped up. So I wanted to show you how I did that. And I've got my tacky glue here, which is about this is like a 45-55 mix. Again, how much water I add to it depends on the atmosphere I'm using it in. And the humidity is pretty low today. So, it's a little higher today, sorry. And I wanted to make sure that it was clingy enough. And you can see this is about, it's paint, I can paint it on. And what I do is I go through, I start at one end, and then I'm going through and putting down each of these. Now, I'll notice there's some immediate, like, it's like, I don't want to do that. The little tips sometimes don't want to go down. So that's one of the reasons I do that. And I try to stay far enough away from the edge that I'm not glomming anything. Let me move this over here. Getting anything too glommy and gross. I try to cut it up into, I do one side, I let it dry. I do another side, I let it dry. And sometimes I'll have, like, this one is going to overlap that one. So I get in there and make sure I've added some extra glue. I sometimes, because if I'm batching these and doing a lot, I try really hard not to use my finger to press these down, because I don't want my fingers to get all like gluey and boogery. Okay, I got a little bit too much right there. I just don't want it to show up. And when I say show up, this is more texture than shine, because this is all going to be painted with a matte. And you can see that looks pretty good. And then I can lay them down, because especially if I've got lots of pieces that I'm doing, I'll do one side and then the other. I've tried in the past to do them at the same time, and it's just, pardon me, an ungodly mess. Like, when I say ungodly, I mean it's like a glue for all. And I'm trying to be careful here, because you can see how that glue kind of splurted out there a little bit. And this is a dedicated glue brush. I have a couple of them that I use that are like a big wide one that is glue and or sealant. And that also includes, you get down there. See, sometimes they just pop right back up. Because this brush had gotten to the end of its life as a paintbrush, and it's another way that I kind of squeeze a little bit more life out of a brush. Okay, and then, oh, in my mouth. I'm going to go along here because I don't like how that's kind of pooking up. Yeah, that's what I wanted. You saw that glue come right out. And then I just set these pieces off to dry. Now, I'll do the same technique here, and you can see on the bottom, I cut a little notch that went this way, so anything that might be here is covered up. I still need to cover this, and I've got a little piece that I'm going to use, but I want to get this stuff glued down first. So again, I work in just making sure. I'll do about that many. And then using the end of the brush is a choice that I've made because this is a bone folder and I don't want to get glue all over it. If I get glue on the end of the paintbrush, I can just wipe it off over here. Okay, so let's get those. I need a little bit more glue. And I'm kind of working, I don't want to say dry. The thing about tacky glue is, I mean, the name pretty much says it all. It gets in there really fast, and it pulls it close. But when I water it down like this, I have to babysit it just a little bit. It's to the point where, how would I say this? I kind of actually want it to dry a little bit because it's sticky. It'll kind of, this kind of lightweight paper will kind of give it a little bit, there's just enough tack to it that if it's too wet, it'll pop up. But if it's just a tiny bit dry, and this dries faster because I've added water to it. So I'll go along all these edges, and then I'll come back and do this edge. Straight edges like this one, this is the shelf portion. This is easy peasy lemon squeezy. I do need to put a piece on the top and a piece on the bottom. Okay, so that's how I'm putting all these things together. Okay. Now, you can see I've got everything covered. This part of putting these pieces on is basically lay it down, trace it, trim it, put it in. You're probably wondering about these little pegs. These are the little bamboo skewers. This is a larger one. I cut them and sharpen them, and these pegs are going to go into the base. Now, I always, there's never a way that I do it that's the same every single time. I tend to change things up because I either can't remember how I did it the last time, or I have a vague way of remembering it. Does that make any sense? You can see here I've made some marks because I have a center shelf, and I have the two side pieces that are going to be going here and here. So I have to mount 6 pieces to the base. The central to that is, let me raise this up. The central, most important part of that, which everything is going to be looking at or hinges on, is this piece, the shelf that's going to go right here. So I need to mount this shelf first. Now, the way that I got these pegs in here, first of all, I just took the bamboo skewers. I usually get between 7, 6, 7, depending on how big I need them to be. Because as you can see here, I need some that are really short and some that are a bit longer. I just use tacky glue to hold them in. And once I figured out which side is which, this one's going up because, no wait, this side's going up because this is a line, then I needed to line up with this midline here. Now I'm using a white polychromos pencil for that because it kind of goes with, it's not something that's going to be out and jarring. So what I'm going to do is I need to make the holes and glue this piece in first, because I'll make the holes here I will put the glue on here, and then I will press this in. So you can see I've gone through and I've done the measure once thing, and measure twice, cut once, and I'm just using an awl to get the holes in. Now, the part of this that kind of sucks is the fact that I try to put them all in the same strata, meaning the same level of cardboard. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Now, I'm going to flip this up because I need these holes to be bigger. And what I'm doing is I'm actually pressing through all the way, almost all the way, and then rounding these out a little bit. If it goes through the back, I really don't care, because I'm going to be going through and putting paper on the back anyway. So let's do a test fit to see if everybody fits. Ugh. Okay, looks like everybody fits. Let's turn this way. Ugh. Looks like everybody fits. Okay. Now, I'm going to need to make these a little wider, the holes just a tiny bit wider, because I want them to be tight. The next part that will go in are these two side pieces, and you can see I've already put holes here. Once this is this shelf is mounted and glued, this is mounted and glued into place, I'm actually going to add one of these pieces, and I've already got it measured up. Here's the midline. I drew this one with pencil because I knew I was going to be covering it up. Then this one will be mounted. The other two are the last two pieces that will get mounted underneath, that will go here on the seam right here, that will kind of help to cover up this. So I had to stop and think about, I'm going to do the shelf portion first, one side, or shelf portion first, middle to help hold that together. These one side, and then boom, boom. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's never quite the same all the time, because I'm changing up what the sides are each time. I'm changing up the pieces parts to these each time. Now, pardon me, a note about these pieces. I had enough with three, what would they call them? 3/4 size. That's what I'd call them, ads. I had enough to cover the edges of all pieces, the insides, but with a couple that I kind of puzzle pieced. If you sew, you know what I'm talking about. So you can tell these two are not the same piece. You can tell here these two are not the same piece. And that other big piece that I did, I chose a section out of it that I liked, and I cut out those two pieces to go here. I'm really glad that I had that extra, because I was not counting on having to weather, allowing paper to dry over 24 hours, because I wanted this constructed by the end of the day. So when it comes to putting these together, I'm not always exactly sure how much paper I'm going to need. More often than not, I make extra and then keep the extra and use it in something else. This time, for whatever reason, I decided not to. But once this is glued into place, then I can mark up and put this in place. It's not exactly exciting work. It just isn't. It'll be nice, though, that this shelf will be nice for the display of the pieces that I'm putting on it. But once they're done and they're drying, then I'm going to turn my attentions back to the A-frame and start attaching those pieces to the base, if that makes any sense. And there's one I'm trying to figure out. It's like, I just want to draw it. I was like, oh, I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. Crap. I found the right paper that I want for this. I thought I was out of it. I thought I hadn't made enough of it. And it's like, oh, I made enough. So now it's like, okay, we're going to do a little drawing and a little painting for that. But it's like little stuff, little circular things. So it's not that big a deal. So yeah, this is how these go together and how I use these kinds of items that I can either get for free, pick out of the trash, or spend a couple of bucks on. Would I like to work in wood? Yeah, wood would be awesome. I just don't have the time or the space for it. I don't have the money or anything like that. So I work with what I got. Thank you, patrons, and I'll see you in the next part of this video. Okay. You can see this part right here. This is the back of the shelf that I put together yesterday. And here is the shelf. Of course, I'll have better pictures of it at some point. There's some points that I wish were a little better, but you know, it's not finished yet. And it's, I need to finish the things that I need to do on this. I need to put a coat of matte varnish on, plus I need to sand down some of these holes in here, and you can see some of them got quite large. I just used spackle inside of them because I knew I could just come along here and give it a little quick sanding to make it even and nice and flat. I mean, it seriously does not take very much. Sorry for all the wobbling, but you can see it certainly doesn't take much to get these, you know, cleaned up. Now, for the back, I have a piece of brown paper. That's what I've been using because, number one, I've got a lot of it and I don't have to pay for it. And number two, well, wait a minute. There's no number two. There's a lot of it and I don't have to pay for it. For this one, because there were holes that were coming through here and I could only, you know, get them so flat, I didn't want there to be indentation marks where the glue would seek its own level and then kind of dry, kind of bubbled inward. I took 2 pieces of brown paper and just fused them together. I used a watered tacky glue for this, and it's going to be just fine. It's just the paper that goes to the wall. So once this is sanded down, I can then flip everything back over, add on, I want at least 2 coats of the matte varnish on these pieces. One of the reasons why I'm favoring the matte varnish right now, there's 2 reasons. Number one, I like the non-shiny bit. It's closer to what the look I achieved with some of the pieces that I made in Finland, in which I used ärikepper glue, watered down to a very liquid consistency and added maybe half a dozen coats. It gave me what I called a candy coating. It looks like an M&M, the candy coating that's on an M&M or a Skittle. There's that kind of tactile feel and visual that I liked a lot. But since I can't get ärikepper here, I could, but it just costs a lot of money. Using the matte varnish, especially in an area where we're prone to humidity, keeps things from sticking together too much. Sometimes I do put down a coat of, and I may do it on this one, a coat of Mod Podge just to seal everything in, and then do a couple of coats of the matte over top, if that makes sense. Because the Mod Podge will seal it in, but then the varnish will also seal, but then give it kind of a different feel. So that's what I'm working on here today. And you can see I've gone through and added a couple of a little bit of color there for those pieces. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and keep running this. As regards the dolls that are going to be going on here, you can see I've got this one kind of pieced together. Here is the other one. This one is the one that's getting the padlock for a head. And I know what I'm going to put there. I just need to put it on there. I made some patterns last night for these, for the wraps, because I'm working in a way that's much more akin to my grandmother Elizabeth. So each one of these is one piece. It just wraps around, and I'm doing the seams on some side seams and some seams at the back. So these were really, like, I've never worked this way before, so I'm kind of just going with what feels right. These are pieces that I basically just sat down and drew around. I know what it's like to work with felt, and I knew that I would need something that's going to expand at the top. I mean, I've sewed enough clothes. This is just for the torso. This wraps underneath. It's not like, it's not rocket science here. I would like to come up with something better for this, probably a two-piece pattern. Maybe a 4-piece pattern for that. I'd like to do a different hand in the future as well. But these were just, like I said, I'm working in my grandmother's shoes right now, if that makes any sense. I'm working how she worked, which was very much, I want to do that. I am going to go and do that. I have an idea of what I want to do. I'm going to take the things that I have and then work within that to see what I can make of it. So those I got together last night. And what I'm using for the clothing is, well, I guess you should say the underclothing. This is just a wool felt, and I'm adding little pink bits. You can see here I've got something that's going to be Ampere waist with some little strappy things right here, and then the head mounted. She still needs to be finished. So that's where I am right now, working, which means I'm pretty much on schedule. According to the notes that I made last night, I'm on schedule. So yeah, I'm gonna get to work on things. I still need to do a little trim work around these. I'm gonna do the wet stuff first, and then come back to these. These have been kind of a hoot to make. I'd really like to work in with this a little bit more. I've added some stuffing here and there. I wanted this to have a little bit more of a belly, and it's going to have a little bit more of a butt. So that's what we're concentrating on today, and hopefully I'll get all that stuff done. So thank you for watching, patrons. I'll probably have some more things to add on to this as I'm going along today. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being my patron. I'm getting a little bibbly now, so I'm going to go away.